Federal Judge Tanya Chutkan, who is presiding over the prosecution of Donald Trump for trying to overthrow the 2020 election, just handed down a sentencing of a January 6th insurrectionist. But what makes this so important is yet again what she's said about the insurrection and those who participated in it. This is a no-nonsense law and order judge who we should all be grateful for that she is presiding over the case against Donald Trump that will have the first major trial date in March of 2024. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. Now, Donald Trump has been posting over and over again about Judge Tanya Chutkan, and we talked about Judge Chutkan before she was even randomly assigned to preside over the Donald Trump federal criminal case being prosecuted by special counsel Jack Smith. She was the judge presiding over a dispute where Donald Trump had refused to turn over documents and records to the January 6th committee, asserting executive privilege. This was now about 2 years ago or so, well before an indictment was brought against Donald Trump. And Judge Chutkan rejected Donald Trump's claim of executive privilege back then and said, presidents in the United States of America are not kings, and Donald Trump is not the president. He does not have the right to assert executive privilege. In addition to making the ruling on that case before she was ever assigned to the federal criminal prosecution of Donald Trump as a Washington, D.C. federal judge, Judge Chutkan was assigned to numerous other cases involving insurrectionists who were charged, convicted, and she was the judge who ultimately handed down these sentences. And as these January 6th insurrectionists would try to act like it was Donald Trump's fault and they would blame Trump for everything, she would address their arguments and she would say, well, at that time, it is true that the leadership has not been prosecuted yet and has not been brought and held accountable, but you, sir, it was often men, you, sir, are not a political prisoner. This was not you just advocating a political position. This was you engaged in an insurrection, a violent insurrection. I do not find that you are sufficiently remorseful. And then she would sentence these individuals to significant, lengthy sentences or whatever it was that the Department of Justice had requested that were within the sentencing guidelines, and she would reject the requests of leniency by the criminal defendants who tried to downplay the significance of the January 6th insurrection. And she would say things like, this was as close as our nation ever came to being on the verge of having a violent coup overthrow the peaceful transition of power. This is not something to take lightly. And sure, it's true that the highest level has not been held accountable yet, but you need to be held accountable. And she would do that time and time again. And you may recall that that's when Donald Trump, after Trump was criminally prosecuted by special counsel Jack Smith, the case is still pending, trial set for March of 2024, Donald Trump tried to disqualify federal judge Tanya Chutkan, saying that she was biased against him based on those prior rulings that she made. And Donald Trump had the audacity also to try to argue that the standard for assessing whether or not Judge Chutkan could be fair and impartial, he just made up a lie in his recusal motion, saying that Judge Chutkan must have relied on extrajudicial sources to make her intrajudicial rulings in her sentencing, that she must have been persuaded by the media and the news to hate Donald Trump. And Judge Chutkan rejected this and said, this is ridiculous. It is my duty as a judge to hand down sentences and to, in many cases, be a trier of fact when it comes to sentencing. I have to sit here, do my job, and listen to the arguments. I was reacting to the arguments of January 6th insurrectionists who were blaming you, Donald Trump, for their conduct, and I rejected those arguments while acknowledging that those were arguments they were making, acknowledging the facts are that the leadership at that time had not been prosecuted. That is a stipulated fact, but that these individuals were not taking accountability for their conduct by trying to blame you. That is what I do as a judge. That is intrajudicial, and there is absolutely no grounds to try to exclude or recuse me, Judge Chutkan, as the judge in the case. So that was rejected.
Bidets are self-care for the selfless, because even busy parents use the bathroom, and they could take 5 for their health. The Hello Tushy bidet makes bathroom time feel like a break that you're taking for yourself. Not to mention how much cleaner the Hello Tushy bidet makes me feel rather than using wet wipes. And you should get yourself a Tushy too. Make the restroom your best room. With over 100,000 5-star reviews, see why millions of people already love the Hello Tushy bidet. Now every Hello Tushy bidet attachment comes with a 30-day risk-free guarantee and a 12-month warranty. Hello Tushy Bidet's fresh stream of water cleans your bum 2 times better than wiping. Even if you use wet wipes, you're still smearing all that grossness around and introducing nasty chemicals to your butt. Using a Hello Tushy Bidet also prevents poop particles from spreading to your hands and then everything you touch. It attaches to your existing toilet, requires no electricity or additional plumbing, and cuts toilet paper use by 80%. A Hello Tushy Bidet pays for itself in under a year. Take care of yourself from the bottom up this holiday season. Visit hellotushy.com/Meidas and use promo code Meidas for 10% off your first order. And don't miss out on their Spend and Get event going on now through November 18th. That's hellotushy.com/Meidas and make sure you use the promo code Meidas for 10% off your order.
But I want to give you that background on Judge Chutkan because yesterday, Judge Chutkan heard a case involving a low-level misdemeanor January 6th case of Stacy Stevens, 57-year-old woman who pled guilty. And Stevens sought probation and said she was only in the Capitol to keep an eye on her mother, who was there, Scott McFarland, in the courtroom. Hat tip to Scott. Everybody follows Scott. So Judge Chutkan, according to McFarland's reporting, listened to Stevens' remarks and then said, "I don't hear remorse." And Judge Chutkan didn't care about Stevens trying to argue that her conduct on January 6th should be mitigated because she's an elderly mother who just got worked up by the crowd. The prosecutors said that she was still capable of making a long march to the Capitol from the ellipse and breach the restricted grounds of the Capitol up to the stairs amid an angry mob of thousands and thousands. So the defense saying this is just an elderly lady, that was the argument they were making, said, please give her just probation or home confinement. That was the argument that they were making. The prosecutors wanted jail time. And again, this was a lower level misdemeanor. So the prosecutors wanted her to serve a jail time of 14 days in jail. I mean, I think she should serve much more, but it was this is the sentence that the prosecutors sought. Judge Chutkan sentenced Stevens to 14 days in jail, exactly what the Department of Justice requested. And one of the things that Judge Chutkan focused on in making the sentencing, and this is why it's important here, is the trauma not caused to the insurrectionist, the trauma caused to our democracy, to our country. Judge Chutkan said, quote, "I don't hear remorse for the collective trauma that this country suffered. I don't see the recognition of terror and fear that you and the others instilled in this country." Judge Chutkan said that the victims of January 6th include Capitol Hill workers who had to hide under their desks, calling their families to say goodbye. There were police officers who were hurt, police officers who have since left the force or died by suicide as a result of this. And so Judge Chutkan said, while you may have accepted some responsibility, I don't see any recognition of the impact of what you have done to these victims. Judge Chutkan then said, quote, "You're not here being sentenced for your political beliefs. Do not give me that at all. And then when it came to Stevens requesting home confinement, Judge Chutkan was like, no. You work from home. You're comfortable at home. This is not supposed to make you feel comforted. This is not supposed to make you feel good. You need to take accountability for your actions. Judge Chutkan concluded, the events of January 6th came as close as we will ever come, or we have come so far as a nation. Never come. The events of January 6th come as close as we will come to the overthrow of a lawfully elected government. If not for the outnumbered police who fought heroically, I'm not sure we would still have our government today. I'm not sure where the U.S. would be today. That just goes to show you Judge Chutkan's view on a misdemeanor. Now think about a felony. Think about what a sentencing of Donald Trump would look like. And this is why I think Judge Chutkan has not really gone for the bait of Donald Trump trying to get her to throw him in jail right now so he could claim and whine to, and act like the judge is persecuting him. All of the bogus BS when Donald Trump whines and plays the victim. No, Judge Chutkan does not want to derail this March 2024 trial date of Donald Trump. She's going to be fair. She's going to make sure that the jury is fair. And she's going to make sure that in this case, the evidence all comes in and that the jury ultimately will be the one that makes the decision. And you could be sure that if, and I believe when, a jury convicts Donald Trump, Judge Chutkan is going to throw the book at Donald Trump. I am certain of that. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We are on our way to 2 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Have a great day and hit subscribe. Help us get to 2 million subscribers.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.